Experience relativity.
Experience relativity.
Experience relativity.
Welcome to another episode of the Experience Relativity podcast. I am your host, Shelton Smith, and I come bearing gifts. You are now welcome to experiencerelativity.com. I finally finished a website that I've been working on to help provide a little bit more information about the purpose behind the podcast. One of the cool things that I've been able to do there is create an opportunity for people to be able to purchase swag for the podcast and show their support. So now available are hoodies, the black and white XR Experience Relativity hoodies that I've worn a couple of times on the podcast. And now you have the ability to support the podcast directly by providing a monetary gift, and gifts that are above the amount of $50 receive a limited edition swag item. Currently, that swag item is this New Era fitted hat. So if you provide a podcast support gift of $50 or more, we will ship you out one of these New Era fitted hats. You'll just need to make sure you have the size of your fitted hat. So thank everyone who's already provided gifts of support to keep the podcast going. You'll have an opportunity to look more into the cost of the podcast and what those gifts go towards. And also, to all the folks who have purchased hoodies, which, those are very high quality hoodies. I sourced them very specifically because we want to keep it nice and high quality over here. That's what the work that goes into the podcast. I wanted it to be mirrored in the apparel for the podcast. And one of the big things I want to mention is it's not just another piece of clothing. It's an opportunity for you to wear your experience. And it's really a reminder when you remember that you have that piece on. It's a remember to take some of those opportunities to share your experience, because no one else's experience is just like yours. So it's a huge thing to get out there and be vulnerable and share some of your experience so that you can connect with others and close that space between us. Now, here on the Experience Relativity podcast, our purpose is to explore that space between us with hopes that we'll be able to close it with more understanding and developing reflex empathy versus jumping to judgment. Now, this month's theme for April is based off a common saying about this period of time, which is April showers bring May flowers. And that plays off of another thing that I say a lot and that I live by. And in fact, I am writing a book about this. So that is, to all things, there is a balance. So you have April showers and then you have May flowers, which of course the showers have typically a negative connotation, though some of us love rain. And, the May flowers are the good or great things that happen in life as a result of the rain. So to all things, there is a balance. And I'm always mindful, and I encourage people to be mindful of the fact that there's always a balance. So when things are, rough, you understand that the balance is coming. When things are way up and you're doing extraordinary, always be mindful that there will come a balance. So appreciate those moments as well. Now, how does that saying play into the theme for this month's podcast? Well, this month's podcast series is On Your Worst Day, You Are Still the Best You. In fact, you're the only you. So by default, you're the best you. I think it's funny when you think about it in that way, because oftentimes we can really get down on ourselves when we aren't having a great day, or when we're not necessarily performing at our best or what we expect from ourselves. So this theme or series is really a reminder that you got to give yourself some grace, and still, even on your worst day, you can still count on the fact that you are the best you. Now, I want to get into something that I discovered this week, and a funny event occurred that made me think about this. So Blue Origin, I guess, sent Katy Perry. Now, mind you, I've been busy, so I didn't have time to look too deeply into this, but I just know Katy Perry did a trip on one of Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin space shuttles. And in the landing, I guess it was said that the space shuttle could only be opened from the outside, and Katy Perry may have happened to open the door before they were able to open it on the outside. So Jeff Bezos, I guess they did a reset. They backed away from the space shuttle. They closed the door, and then he went with a tool and unlatched the door and opened the door. So get to the point, right? The point of this is, with a budget like Jeff Bezos, how does a mistake like that happen? Now, that's not even the important part. The point is, we as human beings seem to like to have things staged. We like to have things look perfect for some reason. I mean, maybe we like for life to be romanticized, and that's why we always like for things to appear perfect and staged. But I can tell you, when it comes to the Experience Relativity podcast, I have put in a lot of time on set design and audio quality and lighting and camera and like all of these things, right? Just so that it is staged properly. And I don't think, well, other than the people who are close to me, I don't think I've had a single person mention to me that quality, behind it. But I'm very impressed with it. I'm very pleased with it, and it makes me happy. So it doesn't matter whether anybody else comments on it. But the reality is, we seem to really, really, really be obsessed with staging things and making things look perfect. And I think that those things kind of hold us back from executing on many different things. But the reality is, no matter how well the thing is staged, it's usually not something that we truly connect with. And it seems to be that we want things that are relatable, but we want them slightly better than reality. And I think that's a very interesting thing about us human beings. I can't remember where I heard this, but there was someone, speaking on human beings and change. And especially in this period of time in the US, there's a tremendous amount of change that is going on. And, for better or for worse, or for whatever logic there is there, the person was saying that human beings don't truly want drastic change. They want a slightly familiar version of what they are used to, or a slightly improved version of something that they are used to or familiar with. Because real change is uncomfortable. Real change is unfamiliar. And as human beings, we spend a lot of time trying to reach a point of comfort. So to give up that comfort is huge. So I have worked a lot on the back and forth between just putting these words out or these ideas and concepts out versus making sure that I have a pretty environment to do it, that I've got the right camera to do it, that I've got the right microphone to do it, that I've got a backdrop that's interesting enough to make it look pretty. And you know what? I love it. It does look pretty to me. But I know to most people, it doesn't even matter. Like, you got to give what it is that you have to give, and don't let stuff like simple things, unimportant things, keep you from being able to execute on what it is that you have to give. So, getting back to the theme, but that's truly right in line with the theme, that even on your worst day, if this whole set fell down, and all I had was the ability to get some sound and a picture at whatever quality I could, nobody's going to be me better than me. And the whole purpose of me doing this podcast is to share me with you, to share the things that are here with you. So that way other people will share the things that are in their head as well. So that way we can bridge some of these gaps that kind of keep us separated from one another and establish a community that's focused on doing that. Um, at this stage in human development, I kind of feel like we need that. And I think for every person who feels like we need that, that's why I do this. Now, I want to talk about something in particular today in reference to on your worst day, you are still the best you. I want to talk about religion. Dun, dun, dun. I do. I want to talk about religion because I think it's important. I think it's important because I think that on your worst day, a lot of people do turn to religion to keep themselves going, to, I believe, stand in place of the idea that on your worst day, you are still your best you. Now, let me hit you with a disclaimer. Yes, I'm going to talk about religion in this episode. Yes, I'm going to talk about religion in this episode. Uh, but everything that I say is from my experience. It's from my perspective. And it is with all due respect to the beliefs of other people. I am in no way, shape, or form tearing down what anybody else believes, because that's one thing I've come to find out about religion is that religion is for the individual. It really is. Whatever your religion is, whatever you believe it is, actually is yours. It doesn't have anything else to do with me, and it doesn't have anything to do with any other human being on this planet. What you believe as far as your religion and spirituality is wholeheartedly yours. No one, in my own opinion, and as again, this is where I get into things that are with all due respect for what anybody else believes, but no one else has anything to do with your relationship with God. So I want to put that disclaimer out there that anything I say is in no way, shape, or form said to disrespect anyone else's beliefs. Man, it's even tough for me to talk about it, and I think it says something. So I want to get into one of my favorite segments of the podcast, which is story time. And I will probably mix it up this weekend, just like I told you. I think I focused a lot on the production of things. And I really don't think that some of those things are necessary. So you can give me the feedback and tell me whether you feel like you need it packaged clean and tight into segments that have an idea. But for me, I felt like it was maybe a little bit more complicated than people needed it to be. So without further ado, story time. Now, I grew up in the church. And, well, what does that mean? For a lot of people, that may mean, going to church on Sundays. For some people, it means never going to church, but having a belief in your heart everywhere you go. For me, church was a thing. So when I say I grew up in the church, I'm being literal. I was in the church all the time as a kid. I feel like I spent more time in church than I spent anywhere else. Now, church went from a thing to understand to a thing to live by to a thing to bear. Now, what do I mean by that? Like initially, it presented itself as something that I needed to understand as a key to life. Like if you wanted to do life well, you needed to understand church, God, religion, and all of these things. Then it grew into something of a framework. So you didn't just need to understand it, you needed to live by it. But what happens if now you've made the determination that you're supposed to live by it when you don't? And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Then it became a thing to bear. And when I say bear, I mean bear like I was raised a Christian. And in fact, I was raised Pentecostal, which is a particular type of Christian. So when I say it became something to bear, I'm talking about, for those familiar, like Jesus Christ had a cross, carried the cross, that thing to bear. Like the religion being on me in that way made it different. As people say, it hit different at that point when I started to have that kind of relationship with religion. So there are two words that kind of define what I see as, my experience with religion initially. And as a child, all the way, kind of up to adulthood when I was about 18 years old. So those two words are fear and guilt. So when I really started to have an understanding of my religion, or the religion that was, given to me by my family, the first thing I really knew about that religion was that you were supposed to fear God. And I'm not like, yeah, at that point I accepted that. And, as a younger human being, I was governed by fear. And maybe in the lowest stages of our development as human beings, fear should guide you. Fear is like a survival thing. So, yes, fear can be good, but I think it is at the lowest level of human development. And sometimes, I believe that that is what religion oftentimes is after, is like, here are the base rules for those who may live at the lowest level of humanity. Like, for example, the Ten Commandments. They are things that you are to do. And if nothing else, you do those 10 things. So when you say do those 10 things, it's like the law, right? And the law was created for the lowest level of human beings. It's like saying, don't drop below this level. And if you drop below this level, there is a consequence. So that's what I mean when I talk about the fear that kind of dominated my experience with religion as a young person. And then the next word, guilt. Guilt is a huge one because, again, Christian, Jesus died on the cross for my sins. You were born into sin, so you have to do work to overcome the sin that you were born into. And I'm like, man, I feel guilty. Someone died for me. Like that's where the guilt came. And it's like, I heard a lot growing up in church how bad we as human beings were. So it's almost like you feel guilty for being a human being. And I'm like, how like, as I got older, it was like, how does that work? How is it that I was born behind the eight ball, right? Like, I was born in a position where I already had something to make up for. Now, if you listen to the previous version of or episode of the podcast, The Grind, when I was talking about what I learned doing endurance running, you'll know that I think that being born is one of the most difficult things that we will ever do as human beings. So, though I didn't believe that back then or understand that back then, going to the idea that I was born in some kind of wrong state that really just didn't sit well with me. So as I explored this topic of religion from the perspective of my worst day, best you still, I was thinking about how I kind of seek out challenges. And I called that kind of being the rainmaker. You know, if April showers bring May flowers, then there are people who want to be the rainmakers. And there's a massive attack song. Gosh, I can't remember what the name of the song is, but the lyrics go, and their eyes change as they learn to see through flames. The flames that I thought about when I heard that lyric were the fire and brimstone that Pentecostal churches teach. Everything is fire and brimstone. You're going to burn in hell if you don't do this. I can't tell you how many times I heard that as a kid. I mean, and this is even just the kids joking with each other. You going to hell. You going to hell. How many times, so many times, you going to hell, you going to hell, you going to hell. So the whole thing is based off a fear of the consequence of going to hell. And I'm like, man, these are adults. These are adults that are living a whole life based off the fear of going to hell. So I think the way that I learned to process that experience is kind of like scaffolding for construction. Like if you have to do work on one part of something, you put up enough scaffolding. Like if you got to change out a window on a building on the third floor, like you put scaffolding up to the third floor, you work on the window, you fix the window. When you're done, you take the scaffolding down. Okay, cool. So that's kind of how I see the structures that are like religion when it comes to your life. You have to put up the scaffolding that you need at the time that you need it, but you just cannot walk around with scaffolding around the entire building all of the time. And that's kind of how I see religion for some people, is that they have built up scaffolding around scaffolding around scaffolding around scaffolding. So, like, even if you want to get in and out of the building, you got to climb through scaffolding. Like, because all of these beliefs have kind of blocked them in. And those beliefs are supposed to be structures that help them build themselves up and maintain themselves, which is good. And I agree with, religion from that perspective. But I think some people put up too much scaffolding and then they just can't even navigate anything but the scaffolding. So if I tied it back to on your worst day, you're your best you. It's like you would never even know who you are because all you do is navigate scaffolding all day. You don't even navigate yourself at all. You don't take that scaffolding off so you can see what you are capable of doing, which I believe is kind of the purpose of being here. The purpose of having your human experience is to figure out what you can do as an extension of God, or an extension of whatever you believe we originated from. We're only an extension of that. So it's like you have to go out and live your life as you in order to, I don't know, have, in my opinion, a purpose in life. But other people believe other things, and that's fine. I'm just giving you my piece, and hopefully we can discuss it. Hopefully I can get some feedback from some folks. But two of the biggest things that I took away from that fear and guilt is a tolerance of misery. I have seen a lot of people in my experience in the church, and again, it's nothing against the church. I really don't have anything against the church. I think the church does amazing things for a lot of people. Um, but this tolerance of misery, in a sense that you are waiting for someone else to do something to save you, or you are just trying to endure the rain, the April showers, just so you could get to the May flowers. And it's like the April showers have a purpose. I mean, when do you learn to enjoy the rain? Like, some people never learn to enjoy the rain. And I think you miss out on a massive part of your life if you don't learn to enjoy the rain versus just tolerating misery, because there's so much misery in life. And I mean, I'm not sure where where people kind of go with that. I've only observed what I've observed in the church, but I'm not sure where people go with that when there's such a tolerance of misery and almost like an addiction, an addiction to absolving themselves of improving upon that misery that has been tolerated or accepted, hoping, and praying that one day God comes back to save you. But like, what it also made me take away, once I started to believe in myself, and fortunately for me, my relationship with God has changed over time as I grew older and got to know myself, therefore got to know God better. I walked out of church feeling like God was the villain. Like, why would you make people so miserable? Like, why would you make people experience the things that they experience? Why would you operate off of fear and guilt? Like, I never understood that. So when I left the church when I was like 18, those were the things that I took away, that these people tolerate a massively high level of misery in their lives and then pray for someone else to fix it. And then, if that is the case, if this is the right way that we are supposed to live, based off of fear, guilt, and a tolerance of misery in hopes that someone will save us, then that wasn't my hero. That wasn't my superhero. That was actually my villain to everything about who I was as a person. So needless to say, that really wasn't for me. Now, I get it for everyone else. Like, I get it. My father is an ordained minister. My family has grown up, and been long standing in the church. And I have taken so many things away from the church, like positive things. I think my ability to remain positive no matter what was one of those things that I took from the church. I can even remember having a scripture on my license plate. I believe it is Philippians 4:13. And, basically the summary of the scripture is, in whatsoever state I am in, I have learned therewith to be content. Like, how could you not? Like, that is one of the most powerful concepts that anyone can master, is the idea that no matter what is going on, you have to find a way to be content and have gratitude. But it does not mean that I was sitting waiting for someone to do something to save me. And I don't think anybody's sitting and waiting for me to do something to save them either. But I think that you are giving your life for a reason, and the purpose of that life is to give who you are, what God created, or what, if you are an atheist, like just what you have, what you possess, to the rest of the world, and then you gone, and that's it. You have a shot to give you to everyone else before your time expires. I want to close with a really funny thing I thought about, and it may be funny to me. If you see it differently, again, I love to hear from you because I'd love to discuss it. I can remember a time when there was I don't even know how you describe it, an idea, a phrase, a theme, a whatever you call it. And it was WWJD. Now, if you're familiar, when you hear this, I need you to hit me because I can't be the only one that really remembers this. It was huge to me. It was huge to me because it was almost like for a moment, everyone was asking themselves, what would Jesus do? And I guess at that time, we were all supposed to ask ourselves that question before we made a decision or before we did something. And I think that's dope. I think it's really dope when you exercise something with that level of consistency. And the story of Jesus is definitely a story where I think whether you believe in it as a religion or you read it just simply as a book, you will learn so much from the story of Jesus and kind of decide what of that you can take with you to make you the best you or an even better version of you. Because keep in mind, you're always the best you. There's not another one of you out there. But I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that in relation to what I do, each day, how I interact with other human beings, how I present myself to the world, how I love myself and my imperfections every day. Like, what would Jesus do? One thing that I know for sure, and I'll never forget this, and this is why, even as probably not so much of a Christian today, as someone who has read a lot about a lot of different religions and things that people believe and see the benefit in so much from so many different sources, when I go back to my roots and I ask myself, what would Jesus do? I think Jesus would experience relativity for sure. And I'm so happy that I discovered this purpose for my life and this mission for my life. And also the opportunity to build a community around this, which opens the door for so many people to share whatever they believe and whatever they live by. And instead of allowing that thing to drive us apart, or allowing that thing to fuel judgment of one another, allowing that thing to fuel separation, divisiveness, war, any of the things that we are enduring that kind of make our existence miserable. I think that experience relativity creates a space to build a community within it. And I know that even for me, like I said, though not necessarily being as Christian as I was when I was young, I do believe that Jesus would experience relativity. And I hope that that makes those who care, happy that this is why I do what I do. So I hope you got something from the episode. I want to continue the conversation. I don't just want this to be me talking in a bubble. So if you want to expand on this, if you want to connect, if you want to talk more about it, if you want to share your experience with me, please feel free to do that. You can reach me at p.winslow_Lee. And you can find the podcast at experience_relativity. Thank you again for exploring the space between us. And as always, your presence is met with gratitude. Love you.
Experience relativity.
Experience relativity.
Experience relativity.